My wife survived cancer, and now she wants a hall pass. I said no, but she still pushed through with it. So I blocked her, and now, the only way to reach me is through my lawyer. Posted by you/throwaway together. My wife and I have been married since 2001 and together since 1999. She is the most intelligent, thoughtful, caring, and loyal person I know. I have always considered myself fortunate to have met and married her. She is, even today, aesthetically beautiful, and men have told her this throughout our marriage. She has always shot them down. Earlier this year, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer, stage 1, and had a full hysterectomy. I was never concerned about the cancer. It was diagnosed early, dealt with quickly, and she made a full recovery. I took time off work to look after her after the surgery, and all seemed well. There were some to be expected emotional issues on her part, and although I am not an emotional person, we dealt with them together. After her recovery, she was insistent that we start living life to the fullest and took a 10-day trip to Europe, followed by a trip to Belize. We also have a trip to the UK and Spain or Portugal later this year. I am fine with building memories and crossing bucket list adventures off her or our list. I also understand that these are a result of feeling fragile on her part. She also took up yoga, swimming, and healthy cooking classes. I was fully on board until last week. Last week, she came home from work and told me she wanted a hall pass. A one-time opportunity for her to be intimate with someone else besides me. She said that since her cancer diagnosis, her outlook on life has changed, and she doesn't want to be handcuffed from doing things she wants to do. She explained that there is this guy at her work that she has always had some attraction to. He is leaving the company, and she will never see him again, so this is the perfect opportunity to sleep with someone else. She said that I could say no, of course, but that she would be mad or disappointed at me for an indeterminate amount of time and that it would be confirmation of my male toxicity and insecurity. I don't consider myself to be toxic, and if not wanting your wife of 20+ years to have sex with someone else is insecure, then I guess I am insecure. I told her that I appreciated her talking to me about this, but approval via coercion is not approval. I also said that I do not appreciate her language in describing my, as of yet, unknown reaction to this very large issue that could affect the rest of our marriage or life. I got up in the morning, and she basically said that she was sorry for putting such a large decision solely on my shoulders and that to help, she was taking the decision away from me. She booked a hotel near where her coworkers are having a party or send-off for this guy, and she would spend the night there with him. She hoped that I would be here when she got back. She would answer any questions I have about the night after it happened, but not before. She will not tell me who he is or anything about him because she knows me too well and that I will dwell and obsess over him, and that would make it too real for me, which is pretty accurate. Her point of view is that the less I know, the better, which contradicts the offer to tell me anything I want to know after it happens. I think she knows I won't want to know or ask anything, or she simply will not tell me. Part of me thinks that at least she has been honest with me, and she has been through a lot since finding out she had cancer, so maybe I should just let it happen. I certainly have no concept of what she went through, so I cannot dismiss how this affected her mental state or outlook on life. Part of me wants to put my foot down, say this is not going to happen, and deal with the consequences when they do. Her BFF called me callous for even suggesting that I wouldn't let it happen because I have no idea what she went through. I find it hard to believe that she is okay with the possibility of throwing away 20+ years of marriage over some guy that she has had no relationship with outside of work and that I should just call her bluff. Maybe she thinks similarly. I won't throw away the marriage because of one encounter. I just don't know what to do. I empathize with her, and then an instant later I am angry with her. Part of me wants to know who this guy is. What does he look like? What has he got that is so enthralling for her? Is he just a safe option? Is he married? Does his wife know? Would I be a callous jerk for saying no? What can I do besides walk away? Top comment. Kinda think this is the way your marriage will be from now on. With her epiphany, she wants to relive her life and she is going to do it regardless of your feelings. I think she is being rather selfish and probably only threatens this because she thinks you are beaten down and will simply put up with it. Perhaps not the best time for trips and frills. She wants the single life, let her see what that means. Op replies to some comments. She thinks because she will never see this guy again and that I have never met him, supposedly, that it won't really affect me or our marriage in the long term. I am left with accepting it and never viewing her the same way again or going through a divorce at 54. Not really great options on either front. I don't know where her head is and the bout with cancer is affecting her in ways that I couldn't possibly imagine. I don't think she believes I will leave. Update 1. It has been an exhausting couple of days. I was hoping that my opposition to her plans would give her pause, but unfortunately, that did not happen. I said I am a hard no, and I am not sure how I will feel about you if you go ahead with it. I was met once again with, this is for me, it will be one time, what can I say to help you deal with it? You'll get over it, we were meant to be regardless of the situation, remarks leading up to Saturday. She left Saturday, ostensibly to meet her coworkers, but in reality to sleep with the guy. I asked her to text me when she was leaving for the bar, and when she did, I asked her if she was really going to go through with this. After her response, I am not answering any more questions tonight, I will see you tomorrow, I blocked my wife. Then I did something either stupid or brilliant. I went to the bar where the get-together was happening. Well, not the bar, but a transit bench across the street. I waited for a long time. It was running through my mind in the days leading up to this event that I needed to know who this guy was, maybe to compare myself against him. To see what he had that I do not. It was driving me crazy not knowing who he was and what was so special about him that she would ruin a marriage for him. After what seemed like eternity, a woman that I recognized from my wife's office left the bar and got in a cab. Soon other people started filing out, and a whole group came out, and people were hugging a man and shaking his hand. I assumed that I had my guy. I didn't see my wife and had a brief thought that maybe she called it all off. I unblocked her, and there were no messages. Everyone said their goodbyes and left. Dude was standing outside for a few minutes, and then my wife came out. She looked around, took his hand, and started walking away together. Of all the emotions I went through, trepidation, sadness, anger, it was disgust that really encapsulated the event for me. This guy was short, fat, and bald, all the things I cannot compete with. Ultimately, I felt like a pervert for watching from a distance. I followed until they got to the hotel, and then turned around and went home. I woke up Sunday morning and put a lock on the master bedroom door. I moved her things to the spare room and left a note asking her to find other accommodations as quickly as possible. I visited another friend who is a lawyer, and he gave me some sage advice and a couple of recommendations for divorce attorneys and made the introductions. My wife had been calling me numerous times since around 11 or so. Once blocked, the calls go to voicemail. I listened to the first couple but felt nothing but some satisfaction when she couldn't get through to me, and she was obviously becoming concerned. I didn't want to go home, but I left in such a hurry that I didn't plan an overnight trip properly. I got home around 9, and as per my buddy's advice, I recorded the interaction. I was halfway up the stairs when she came up from the family room, asking what was going on. Could we talk? I thought we talked about this. I just answered that I was not interested in discussing this tonight and went to bed. After not getting a response from me through the door, she left me alone. I feel kind of like a child for not talking with her and shutting the door on her, but I just couldn't look at her. On Monday, I got up and was ready for work. She was waiting for me and asked if we could discuss getting back to normal. I said, "You have been doing all the talking for the both of us for the last week, why don't you continue and leave for work? I have an appointment with the attorneys my friend recommended this week." My fiancée knew that I was infertile, so she went ahead and smashed my brother. She only told me about it right when my pen was on the birth certificate, so to make things better, she married him, and she's now blaming me for their family falling apart. Posted by you/username 528191001JS. I have a niece named Lily. Lily is the result of an affair that my ex-fiancé had with my brother while we were still together. I was led to believe Lily was mine throughout the entire pregnancy and almost signed her birth certificate before my ex confessed out of guilt that Lily was probably my brother's. We did a DNA test, and Lily wasn't mine. During my teens, I got into an accident that left me infertile. The doctors said my chances of fathering a child were slim to non-existent, so you can imagine how crushed I felt when I discovered that not only was I not going to be a father, but I was also betrayed by two people I loved. It's been years since, and I did well for myself. I'm the first in my family to attend university, and I landed a high-paying job right after graduation. I own my own business and invest in property, and since I'm both single and childless, I can spend my income however I please. My ex ended up marrying my brother. I'm somewhat cordial towards them, but I can't bring myself to fully forgive them for what they did. And although I know Lily is blameless, whenever I see her, I'm constantly reminded of how I was once overjoyed with holding her in the hospital, thinking she was mine, so I can't bear to look at her for too long. I didn't visit her growing up, take her on fun trips, or give her lavish gifts like I did for the rest of my nieces and nephews. I wasn't mean or hateful to her, but I will admit I kept my distance. When my oldest nephew turned 18, I decided that I would pay for his college education since I could afford it while his parents couldn't. I even rented him one of my apartments for cheap so he wouldn't have to worry about money and could focus on getting his education. Since then, I have done the same thing for two of my other nieces. Last week, Lily approached me during a family event and inquired if I could pay for her education. I told her no. She then called me a jerk and asked why I was so distant towards her and her parents, to the point where I couldn't even do her the same favor I did for the rest of her cousins. I told her that her parents have enough money to afford her education and asked her how she could possibly expect me to be okay with watching my ex and brother, who had an affair behind my back, play happy family in front of me. After that, Lily got quiet for the rest of the event and left early. I later got a call from my ex yelling at me for ruining her family. Apparently, she and my brother didn't bother telling Lily about what they did to me all those years ago. And now that she knows, she is so angry at them that she decided to go live with her boyfriend's family. I'm starting to feel guilty that I told her the truth since it affected her more than I thought it would, but at the same time, she has grown enough to know the truth, and I don't think I could have lied to her face even if I wanted to. Am I in the wrong? Update 1. For those asking why it was so hard for me to look at Lily all those years, here are a couple of reasons to sum it up. 1. My ex and I began dating when we were 13 and broke up when we were 24, so that's 11 years. She knew about my infertility issues and how much I wanted to be a dad, and she still led me to believe the baby was mine. 2. I named Lily when she was born since I always liked the name and wanted to name my daughter that. My ex didn't change her name even after it was discovered she wasn't mine. 3. My brother and I look alike. Lily looks like my brother, and as a result, she also looks a lot like me. If my ex hadn't told me back then, and I wasn't her father, I wouldn't have suspected a thing. 4. Having to witness a child that looks like me, has the name I chose, and was being raised by the woman I loved for so long, all the while being infertile, really made it impossible for me to be an active part of Lily's life like I was for her cousins. Not out of resentment toward her, but for the sake of my mental health. I decided to listen to some of your advice and text Lily. I asked her if she would like to meet up and have a conversation about all that went on since, like you said, she does deserve some answers. She hasn't replied yet. If she does, I'll update. Update 2. I met up with Lily yesterday. I told her about my relationship with her mother, how and when it started, and went into detail about the accident I went through, the cheating, and her birth. I got over everything she asked me about. In turn, she told me everything her parents told her about me growing up. Apparently, she was told that around the time she was born, I had a miracle baby named Lily that died at the hospital. And since she and her share the same name, I held some sort of resentment towards her. I am still processing what she told me. I feel like it's such a twisted retelling of what actually happened that it's insulting. Needless to say, there was a lot of crying involved, and we apologized to each other. Lily said she's doing better now that she knows the truth and that her boyfriend and his family have been an amazing support to her throughout all this. My family decided to officially cut off any contact with my ex and brother. Now that Lily is an adult, there is no need to also invite them along so they can see her. For those asking me if I go to therapy, yes, I do. My therapist was the one who suggested I distance myself from Lily and her parents all those years ago. And honestly, it did do wonders for my mental health, so I can't say I regret that decision. I was suicidal back then, and I don't think regular contact with them would have possibly done me any good. I decided that I'd try my best to be more involved in Lily's life now that I don't have to interact with her parents in order to meet up with her. Lily agreed and said she also wanted to get to know me better. Overall, this whole incident opened up a lot of old wounds, but I'm glad it happened. It needed to happen. All I can say is that I hope that both Lily and I will probably heal from this and move on with our lives. Relevant comments. God, imagine the way that girl's heart must have just plunged right down into her stomach when she inadvertently learned the truth. Can imagine, had a similar experience learning my dad didn't just die but was suicide. All of a sudden all this shit in your life that doesn't make sense just effing clicks. Makes you question your relationship with everyone that didn't tell you. My grandma on my dad's side slept with my dad's uncle. So he grew up getting the living crap beat out of him every day by the person who he thought was his dad. We visited his family once, the bio dad and others who were left behind in a divorce. They were extremely wealthy and had the same unusual food allergy my dad did. When he caught it a few weeks later he just ignored everything. Well, turns out his younger sister, my aunt, isn't even the legit child of my now grandpa, everyone knows but her. She's 30 and has never had to pay a single bill and gets a new car every year, to make up for her not having a real dad. Pretty messed up when you meet a 35-year-old who is still mentally a teenager. It's easier to lie and cover their own behinds than admit the truth. Considering how Lily's reacting to knowing the whole truth, my guess is they had a feeling this was how she'd react and didn't want to face it. It helps ease the guilt of what they did and helps preserve their little fantasy world where what they did wasn't that bad. It is another level of selfish to go after your BF's brother. Then lie about a child. Yet they found the next one with a dead baby story. Yuck. Glad the family could finally cut off the pos brother and ex. I get it for Lily's sake, but I'm still so mixed about that. They did cut them off originally too. In a comment Op made on the original post, he said they essentially cut ties for 2 years, but then they were sort of forced to bring them back in, otherwise they would never get to see Lily. The aunts, uncles and grandparents wanted a relationship with their niece/granddaughter, even though the entire situation was crappy. As for not telling Lily the truth, I doubt they ever had a reason to. Op was standoffish to Lily, and Lily was aware that there was a reason he was that way with her. Other family members observing this dynamic might have asked the parents if Lily knew, and they just said she did. Lily didn't pursue a relationship with her uncle because of the lie, but to the rest of the family, it could have just been assumed that Lily knew the truth. It's not like they were going to have a conversation with her about why she didn't have a relationship with Op. There wasn't one, and everyone understood why, assuming Lily understood as well based on the way she seemingly accepted the whole thing. Then it blew up. The family found out the truth. Since Lily was finally 18, the lie gave them enough reason to cut the parents off for good, since they didn't have to worry about losing contact with Lily. My stepdaughter and I are really comfortable expressing our affection, but her room temperature IQ boyfriend thinks it's a competition, and he's asking me to back off of his trophy. Now, he brainwashed her, she's avoiding contact with me, and I don't know how to act around her either. Posted by you/Throra10019. My daughter and I are very close. She'd never had a decent male figure in her life at the time I met her, and I knew that if I wanted to pursue a relationship with my now wife, I should do everything I could to fill the role, so I did. I helped with homework, I played games with her, I watched shows or YouTubers she was into, I read her favorite books, etc., because I wanted to build a solid relationship with her. It turns out that if you treat things like they're important, sometimes they go well. She and I spend a lot of time together, and our family doesn't really have big touch barriers, so we exchanged hugs, cheek kisses. Sometimes she'll use me as a pillow, etc. All of this is very common, and she does the same with my wife. I love you is said probably 50 plus times a day in my house. We are affectionate. That's the picture I'm trying to paint here. Very recently, she started dating. Her boyfriend doesn't appreciate that we're comfortable expressing our affection toward each other, even going so far as to ask me in private to tone it down when he's around. My daughter doesn't know this yet. I want to respect my daughter's new relationship because this is a new and exciting thing for her, and I'm genuinely happy for her, but I also don't want to lose the connection I've spent so long building, and I don't think I should be made to pretend it's less important to me just because she's dating someone who happens to be a little insecure. I can understand where the guy is coming from, but I don't think he really has a right to interject here. The dilemma is this: should I tone it down as requested, should I continue on as normal, or should I tell my daughter about the request and let her handle it however she sees fit? I'm honestly not sure what the right move is. Update 1. I spoke with my daughter the next evening after she came home from work. Her boyfriend was at the house at the time. I pulled her aside for a couple of minutes and let her know what happened. She was surprised because she'd already had this talk with her boyfriend. She said she'd handle it, and she left. A little while later, I called them in for dinner. After she finished eating, she confronted him. I'm paraphrasing because she told a story, but this is basically what she said. So my dad told me what you said, and I wanted to wait until after dinner to bring it up. I didn't have a good childhood. My biological father treated my mom horribly, and after she left him, he never contacted me again. Her next big relationship was worse. It seemed fine on the outside, but there was a lot of emotional abuse and controlling behavior, and I was caught up in it too. Then this guy came along. I was obviously skeptical at first. He looked like trouble to me. He was making my mom happy, but I was an icy bitch to him because bad men were all I'd ever known. He asked me questions for over a year, trying to get to know me, and I shut him out. One day, when I was reading, he asked what book it was. I didn't even answer him. I just lifted it up so he could see the cover. It was Island of Shipwrecks in the Unwanted series. He said, "That looks pretty cool, what's it about?" And for the millionth time, I didn't answer. Maybe 2 weeks later, he asked me if I was finished with the book. I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Well, I read the other 5. I thought you might let me borrow it so I can catch up and we can talk about it." I thought he was lying through his teeth, so I asked him questions about plot points and characters. There is not a single wrong answer. I went to my room and got the book for him. It's kind of a dumb story, but you have to understand something. My dad is the first man who was ever nice to me, and I gave him plenty of reasons not to be. He was patient and thoughtful and never pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I will always be grateful for that. The bottom line is that I love my dad, and the only people who have a say in our relationship are us. If you feel threatened because we're close, that's not going away. Ever. I like you. I have fun with you. But if you think I'll change my relationship with my dad for you, then you've made a mistake. If you're too insecure to handle the fact that I'm close to my dad, this isn't going to work out. If you can handle it, I would love to have you around. Otherwise. He kind of interrupted her here and said, "It's not just because you're close. I get that he's been good to you and your mom, and that's great, but have you seen the guy?" "Yes." "What about it?" "It just makes it really weird for me. I don't know how to explain it other than that. You're way closer to your dad than anyone I've ever met, and it's a little creepy when you take into account that he looks like he could be a what are you doing, stepdaughter guy. Look, there's apparently 2 people at this table who think my dad is bonkable, and it's really weird that you're one of them. Choosing time is over, the door is that way. Do not call or text me anymore." So that's pretty much how it went down. After he left, she cried for a few hours in her room. When she finally came out, it was around midnight or so, and she sat next to me on the couch. I asked her if she was worried this would be a constant problem, and if she wasn't comfortable with how things were. I could understand and respect that. She hugged me very tightly and just replied, "Don't be dumb." So I guess everything is alright. I also thought it was kind of funny that she had this big story planned out, and the guy just completely disregarded it. Obviously, empathy and understanding are not his strong points. I feel bad for my daughter because it was her first relationship, but I definitely think she dodged a bullet. Update 2. My stepdaughter and her boyfriend have since gotten back together, and the physical nature of her showing affection has slowed considerably. She no longer sits in my lap, but she will still lean on me occasionally when we're watching shows, etc. I suppose she has determined new boundaries, which I am more than happy to accept, particularly because I am never on the initiating side anyhow. I only ever wanted her to be comfortable with me, and however she chooses to express that, that is fine with me. Her boyfriend is a nice enough guy, and I kind of hope he sticks around. He seems to treat her with respect and kindness, which is all I can really ask for. So many people are skeptical of me in general, but I suppose I get it. It's not often that people make legitimate efforts to improve themselves in the way they treat people or how they are viewed by others, so when people like that present themselves, I can understand being cynical or even mean. Plus, it's Reddit, it could just all be made up. In the end, I don't care if you believe or not, it's irrelevant to me. I'm not perfect, but I definitely give it my best effort. Relevant comments. What a ride, glad daughter didn't put up with boyfriend's BS. Boyfriend is definitely the problem with the what are you doing stepdaughter stuff. It's hard for steps to connect and people like the BF are toxic and gross AF. He also handled it all wrong. Young Padawans have a lot to learn. At first I thought it was off that the boyfriend bypassed the daughter and went right to the stepdad to air his complaint. He should have voiced concerns with her first, listened to what she had to say about it, and had a discussion. But instead he went right to him. Rude. Then once I realized he did go to her first, so then he tried to further push his issue from a new angle. I thought, oh kid, you done messed this one up. Image being that poor girl, and her stepdad suddenly put some distance between them out of respect for her relationship. She thinks she does something wrong. Freaks out because of her past experiences. Then, she finds out it's all because her boyfriend didn't like her original explanation and didn't care. He didn't like it, so he wasn't taking no for an answer. Yikes. If this really played out as Op stated, good for her for standing her ground and be clear about it. And good for Op for having a hand in raising a smart young lady. He sounds like he really respects her and she feels the same back. Just add me to the list of people who think Op is probably smashable. Lol. There's a huge number of young men whose entire knowledge of lovemaking and sexuality comes from prawn and it's really messed up. Like prawn reflects the fantasies of people who would consume it, but since the advent of the internet and the availability of free prawn, you see more and more men whose fantasies are the reflection of what they watch and not the other way around.